What's up? Welcome to Counting Wisdom. You're probably listening to this on the Bible Wisdom YouTube page. And, I just wanted to make a short video or podcast talking about how, when we should be choosing not to drink alcohol. There's only a few places in the Bible that talk about when you should drink alcohol. But I want to make the case that we shouldn't drink alcohol, and I'm going to come from Proverbs 31, when Lemuel, his mother, the King Lemuel, is being given advice, and this is what encompasses Proverbs 31. And in Proverbs 31, it says it's not for kings to drink wine, and it's not for princes to drink intoxicating drink. Now, you could say, oh, well, I'm not a king or I'm not a prince. But I want to make the case that we are a king and we are a prince, because if you put your faith in Jesus, then you are a king. Because in Revelation, the book of Revelation, in the beginning, it says he's made us a kingdom and a priest, or one translation, the KJV, says he's made us kings and priests to God. And so the Bible also talks about we are heirs of God and joint heirs with Christ, which makes us a prince, where God, the king, is God. So the son of a king would be a prince. And so I wanted to make the case that God, he wants us to be sober. And so I think if you do drink alcohol, God wants you to drink very little amounts of alcohol, where you're not getting drunk, you're not even close to getting drunk, but maybe you feel some sort of buzz, or I think it equates to maybe 1 or 2 drinks of alcohol, for that day. And you might, I don't know if you want to drink every day, but you should really control how much alcohol you're drinking. And I think if you do drink alcohol, you have to remember that God wants us to be sober-minded. And it says that throughout the New Testament in certain places. I think in 2 Thessalonians, but also the books of Peter. I can't really give you off the top of my head the exact place where it is, but there's some good reasons why you should be careful with alcohol, because it really makes you do things that you wouldn't normally do if you didn't really have that option to drink, or if you didn't really have that option. If you were sober, you wouldn't make that choice, is what I'm trying to say. The bad choice that you would make if you were drinking. And sure, not every time you drink alcohol it leads to sin, but I want to make the case that the times that you do drink alcohol, it could open the door to sin and other problems. I guess, sin would be the problem, but you know, chances are you probably don't drink right now if you're listening to this, but there could be cases where you do drink. And so there could be people out there who do drink listening to this. And so I want to make the case that, I think it's very important to understand alcohol, that it carries, some strong power with it. And that power that alcohol carries can really alter your life and bring you into certain situations where you are regretting, drinking alcohol. And so it can take a hold of you where you no longer have control over alcohol, and you no longer have the control to stop drinking. So, in conclusion of this podcast, this is going to be a short podcast. I think if you choose to drink, you need to do your research. You need to do your research on alcohol. Like, what are the effects of alcohol? When you think about it, how can we just grow up one day, we either turn 18 or we turn 21, or maybe you drank before you were 21 or 18, but how can we start drinking alcohol and not know anything about it? Especially because it has such powerful effects on us, on our body. It's kind of like we just wake up and we're just like, we see people talk about alcohol, we see other people drink, and we see what, effects it has on people. And sometimes, yeah, sure, alcohol can be, a joy or a benefit in some way. But I think society does not do justice to really show the consequences of mishandling alcohol. And I think the things that you do hear about alcohol, the negative side of alcohol, it's kind of like a rumor. No one really talks about it. You just kind of put it on the back burner. It's kind of in the back of your mind about the negative effects of alcohol, but I don't think we're really that educated about it. And I think they need to talk about it more in college, in high school, before you get to college, and so that's it for this podcast. I just wanted to kind of take a side note to the other types of podcasts that I usually do. I have another podcast that I haven't really talked about, but it's called actually see, I used to do the podcast, but it's been about a year or so since I've even been on that podcast, so I kind of completely forgot the name. I've only done about 5 or 6 podcasts on that topic, but basically it was about kind of like real life situations. I wanted to talk about real life and kind of have a podcast separate of the Bible. And so I don't know how it actually turned out, because I do this podcast, this channel, more than the other one. But anyway, I brought up that other podcast to say I do have videos on YouTube talking about other problems that we encounter in life that I think, maybe we aren't listening sometimes. I think sometimes in our life, we don't really listen to the warning signs. Just thinking about the pandemic that we're in, America, as if you're listening to this later on, America, and the world went through a pandemic where a whole bunch of people got infected with COVID-19, which is a virus. And so, my point is that sometimes people either wear a mask or, get the vaccine, but a lot of people don't wear a mask, don't get the vaccine, and it's like we aren't listening to the warning signs about certain things that happen in our world. And so, anyway, I hope you found this podcast helpful. I hope you got something from this podcast, and I will talk to you on the next one. See ya.